I want to tell you about a Christmas tweak that you might be able to apply that could maybe give you a new experience of Christmas this year. And so it may even offer you a paradigm shift. Did you ever hear of paradigm shifts? something we used to talk about a lot in business. So here's what a paradigm shift is. It's kind of like this. So say, for example, that I am new to Sewickley, and so I need to get to a certain church on Ohio River Boulevard. And so I go down to the map maker's place, and I ask for a map of Sewickley. And so what I get is one that has Sewickley on top of it, but it's actually a map of Rochester, Pennsylvania. And so there I am following my map because GPSs haven't been invented yet. And so I'm following my map, and what's happening is that, try as I might, I'm just not finding this church, and it should be appearing here any moment. And so, so I get on the phone and I call the map maker, and I say to the map maker, this map isn't working. And he says to me, well, how are you driving that car? In what gear? And I said, well, in second gear. He said, well, see, that's the problem. You have to make a behavior change here, and you should actually be driving in third gear. And are your lights on? And no, but put them on. See, so I go and obediently change my behavior, but I'm still not getting to the church. And so now I'm getting a little bit more worked up about this, and so I call the map maker again, and I say to him in a frustrated way, I still can't find the church. What's going on with this? And he says to me, well, with that attitude, I would like to know if you've passed the library on the way, or a bookstore. So I want you to go in there and go to the self-help section and find a little bit on self-esteem building and a little bit more on control, attitude adjustment. So I go in there and I find that book and I read up on it. And so I'm still getting lost, but I'm joyful because my attitude has changed. So if you want to make progress, I suppose a behavior change or two is good. And if you want to make progress, I suppose that, an attitude realignment is good from time to time. But is that going to get me to my church? No. See, what's going to get me to my church is what? What has to change? The map. See, that's a paradigm shift. The map has to change, the core. I love how Stephen Covey says it. He said one day that he was in London in the tube, the metro, and so he was minding his own business, and it was a crowded train. And what he noticed was at one of the stops, a younger man with three little kids came into the train, and the man seemed to be their father, and so he sat down, but all the three kids started running around the train, bothering people. And everyone was getting irritated by this, and Covey kind of looked up and just couldn't believe that the father wasn't correcting his kids. And so they let it go, and you heard people rolling their eyes and making comments, and then Covey thought, well, he should go over and talk to this man. And so he gets up and he goes over to the man and says, sir, I hate to bother you, but are these your three children? And the guy says, yes. And he says, sir, are you aware that these three kids are bothering everyone in some way? And the guy says, well, I suppose they are, but we just got back from the hospital and their mother died. Now, did you have a paradigm shift? Are you seeing things totally differently? You see? And that's what a paradigm shift is. And so what I'd like to offer you is the potential of a paradigm shift for your Christmas this year. And here's what the shift is that I suggest. Rather than to do it the old way that most of us have done it, which I think goes something like this: God, Jesus, the baby, is the one we seek. Okay? God, Jesus, the baby, is the sought after. That's the way we've always thought about Christmas, I think. How about if you flip that? How about if you just flip it into this? That you are the sought after by the Almighty. That your God thinks so much of you that God will take on human form. You are the sought after. Now, if we could appropriate that, I think we'd have a very different view of Christmas. So think about it. Isn't Christmas all about what we do, the actions we take? I mean, I've said it 1,000 times, I think, in preparation for Christmas, like, I'm not ready, I haven't bought enough gifts, I've heard people say things like this, we put up our tree, we took down our tree, we put things here, we did this, I baked 8 nut roll, I baked 4 poppy seed, we've gone to the Messiah, we've gone to Nutcracker, all this kind of stuff. And so it's all about our activity, it's all about what we do. Could I ask you this year to think it differently? We got a Christmas card, a little bit sexist. It says, wise men still seek him. You've probably done that. See, it's all about activity. How about thinking God seeks you out? See, that's what incarnation is all about. Can you just let that absorb in yourself for a minute? That you, I, are the sought after. You are the gift, not the giver. You are the found, not the hunter. You are the loved one, not the lover. You are the sought after, not the seeker. It's profound. You are the treasure. You are that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You see, that's how much God loves you, and that's what we celebrate today. We are worth it, not on our own, but because God values us. And that's what incarnation is all about. God becomes one with us. That's what we celebrate tonight. It's incredible. I was talking to young parents, their first baby, and some of you probably can remember back to these days. And they put it this way. The little boy is 6 months old, and they said, Regis, our baby found us. And I laughed at that. And I said, and then what? And they said, our lives changed. We have found life in places where we never knew we had it before. See, when you're found, that's how you start to see things. Or I can remember 2 years ago, I was working at our walking ministry at the cathedral downtown, and we had coats that we were giving away to the poor who came in, and they didn't know it. So we had to let them know that. And there's this one guy who I'd seen about 3 or 4 times. His name was Ray, and he says, well, I'm here for my food today, and I gave it to him, and I said, Ray, is there anything else you might need? And he says, I wish a coat would find me. And I said, guess what? We have them. He said, you're kidding me. And so I remember taking him down to the place where we had him, and on the way down he was saying, I hope there's a blue one. I hope there's a blue one. As soon as we went in there was a blue one. And so he saw that, and here's what he said whenever he bundled himself into it. He says, this coat was made for me. It found me. And I just loved how he said that. And he said, now I can do winter in Pittsburgh again. There's something important and significant whenever we start to think of ourselves as being found. So, what are some of those things? Well, you start to feel a new sort of importance, a spiritual importance, that you count, that you're worthwhile. You start to see potential that you may not have thought that you had before. You start to see things that are just really wonderful about life. That's what you start to see whenever you're found, whenever you're the gift. So, 3 things, and then we'll be done with this sermon tonight. Here's the 3 things. It will be helpful this Christmas, I think, for all of us to think that we are the gift that God is around. We are the gift. And as a gift, that means that you can be you. You don't have to be anyone else. You are valuable in your gifts, who you are, what you're about, and where you live and what you do in life. You are okay. We don't need to change that much. We just have to be aware. I heard a story recently about 2 engineer students who were applying for their first job And so they were very competent people, as were the 100 others who were applying for this job. And so there was a good chance that 50 of them could have been hired for the job. So in time, what happened was the interviews went down to a point where there was just two prime candidates, both of whom knew each other and both of whom were friends. And so the hirer, the manager, didn't know which one he really wanted to choose. And so what he decided was that they would put together a 10-question test that would be given to both of those candidates. And so they took the test and they turned them in, and then they were scored, and both of them got 9 right, and both of them got 1 wrong. And so upon further review, not only did both of them get all 9 right, it was the same 9 that each of the 2 got right. And it was the same one that both of them got wrong. But they had to make a decision of the 2 who they were going to hire. So they made the decision, and so the manager called them the rejected one, or the one that was about to get rejected, and gave him the bad news and said, I'm just really sorry, but we can't offer you the job. We're going to be offering the job to your friend, because the 2 of them were friends. He said, well, did my friend do better on the test than I? He says, no, you actually both did it equally. In fact, he got 9 right, you got 9 right. He got 1 wrong, and you got 1 wrong. And he said, so why was he hired? Did he didn't get more right? I can understand if he got more right. And the guy said, well, he was hired not because of what he got right. And you were fired or not given the job because of what you didn't get right. But it was the one that you got wrong that made all the difference. And he said, how can that be? Wrong is wrong. He says, no. You both got number 5 wrong. And his answer to number 5 was, I don't know. And your answer was, me neither. You don't have to copy. You don't have to be anyone but you. That's the first point of the gift. Second thing about a gift, whenever you're found and you begin to realize that you're God's gift, the second thing to remember is this, that there's untapped potential in all of us that we still have to put forth. 22 years ago on this night, a friend of mine, Larry, I think you might know this guy, David Voletich. Does that ring a bell? Brother David, who was our infirmary. Yeah. He used to be a Capuchin friar. And then he left the order, he became married. And the night he called me, he was 65 years old, 22 years ago. And he and his wife just got a call that there was a baby available for the 2 of them to adopt. And he said, not only that, Regis, we decided to do it at age 65. Right? Scared. It pulled out of him a potential he never thought was there. And Margaret, their girl now, is 22 years old, and David is 87. And he has every plan to give her away in 1 year on her wedding day. Interesting things. There's potential in all of us if you understand that you are God's gift that is still to be coming out in you. And the third thing is this. Whenever we understand ourselves as God's gift for God to unwrap, it means that He trusts us enough for us to write our own scripts. Sometimes those scripts will never hit the earth or the world unless you do them. To be creative, take risks. And that's the next thing that comes when you understand that you are the sought after. I heard about this Christmas play that was given, and at this one school, and it was given parts to all of the Sunday school members. And there's this little kid by the name of Wally. And the teacher just didn't know what part to give him because Wally was just a little bit of a different kind of student. He had some challenges, but the ideal role seemed for him to be the innkeeper who only had one line, and they thought that was good. And his line was, "There's no room in the inn." That's all he had to say. And Wally was pretty excited about this because he thought that was just a great presence, and he was on stage for the whole time behind the door, of course, but he was still on stage, and he studied his line. So the big moment came whenever Joseph and Mary came on stage and they knocked at this innkeeper's door, and then Wally opened the door and he appeared, and the question was, "Sir, do you have some room for my wife and I who've traveled all day?" And he said, "There's no room in the inn." And this Joseph, the kid who was playing Joseph, was kind of a confident little lad, and so he didn't go according to the script. And so he comes up with another line saying, "Well, my wife is with child. She has to have a place. Can you give us a room in your inn?" And Wally didn't know what to do. And so Wally's now, looking around, and then he says, "There's no room in the inn." And the kid then even went further and says, "But please, sir, we are so tired. We've been on the road so long." And Wally says, "There's no room in the inn." And Mary and Joseph take off, walking away. And Wally is just totally upset and just looking around, and people are still looking at him. And then he says, Stop, you can have my room." And everyone thought that was the real message of Christmas. See? So, your God seeks you. You're the sought after. There's so much potential in each one of us. May this Christmas be the Christmas that you make that a part of your existence. Amen.